Hey everyone, my name is Chris Lambert, and on this channel we talk Kanye West. Kanye has been, I think, what we'll call an emotional terrorist by withholding Donda from us and not giving us any updates. So, because the album's still not out, I thought it would be time to go back and answer some of these AMA questions that you all had for me, and let's have some fun with that while we just try to get over the heartbreak of not knowing when this album's going to come out. Wait, real fast. Eh? Any updates? Any updates, Kanye? No. Okay, so back to the questions. We have Ogvek saying, how old were you when you first got into Kanye? Who was your favorite artist before Kanye? So I actually went to an Usher concert when I was 18. I took my high school girlfriend because she loved Usher, and it was the summer of 2004. Kanye was the opening act, and I completely forgot about that. I remember whenever I think back to the concert, I had really loved the opening act more so than like even Usher, but I didn't pay attention to the name. And back in 2004, like smartphones were not a thing. So I kind of just didn't think much about it after hearing it because it was just the opening act, right? But it was Kanye. It was Kanye. Completely forgot about that for like over a decade until I was looking up something about that tour to talk about it with somebody and realized Kanye opens. But I didn't really become a fan until 808s and Heartbreak came out, which was 2008. So I would have been 21. And it was just kind of a culmination of things. Like I had already been getting more into Kanye's discography, and when Stronger came out in 2007, we would play it at the start of every party we had at our fraternity house. Shout out Sigma Chi. But keep in mind, we were like a nerdy school, Case Western Reserve University. So it's like if you were social in any way, shape, or form, you ended up joining a fraternity just to have. Like, it was just a very like anti-social engineering school for the most part. But we would play Stronger at the start of every party that fall semester, which was a ton of fun. And I started discovering like his albums at that point, even though I'd heard the radio singles and already liked the radio singles. And then when 808s came out, it was just my dad had recently passed. I was like a hopeless romantic my senior year of college, just like stuck with all of these like almost relationships that would fizzle out. So when that came out in the winter of Cleveland, it hit in a way no other album really ever had at that point. Like I had really liked albums just overall and would like vibes of albums, but that was the first time that like the content of an album resonated with my soul in a way that was just kind of a transcendent experience. So from that point on, I was really into Kanye. And then when My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy came out, like game over, game over. Who are favorite artists before Kanye? I was always like really into rock. Prior to that, I really liked like new metal, weirdly enough. Disturbed, Linkin Park, and just a lot of the like Puddle of Mud. Like I liked singles, like a lot of rock singles and new metal singles. I wasn't listening to a lot of albums back in the day. Like American Idiots, I liked a lot, and Mesmerized by System of a Down was another album I was into. But for the most part, I was like burning CDs with multiple songs on it. But I was also into rap as well, but mostly like singles, like Nelly, Cisco, like 50 Cent, Eminem. I was really into. Outcast, but mostly like Outcast singles, and with most of these like just the big singles, and a lot of those radio songs from that like 2001 to 2008 like radio rap were just like so definitive and iconic for that time period for me. We have Patrick Pillow. I gotta apologize to Pat here. Sorry, Pats. I don't have a good answer for this at the moment. I'll do some research and come back to you, but I didn't get to go to any of the listening parties and was a little bitter about it. And I don't know all that much about what people were hearing, or like, I don't remember that much about Young Thug had a verse on it and then Kanye cut the verse. I think that was it. Lauryn Hill, it was just rumored, or I'm kind of blanking on that period. So I'll get back to it. If y'all have better answers, please, I would very much appreciate some backup on this. Otherwise, I'll do some research and come back to you. Moose, I love the theme of talking about Kanye's discog as movies. If that was the case, which album would be the prestige picture? Which would be the Oscar nominee that was snubbed? And which would be the cult classic? Prestige picture, I feel like has to go to something like College Dropout, Late Registration, or Graduation. Like maybe Graduation, because like College Dropout and Late Registration still have a lot of that like auteur spirit to them, right? Like Kanye's a new kid on the block, he's doing it. Graduation, he's kind of established himself and was going for that big stadium sound. And I think that kind of aligns with blockbuster prestige film. Like we're throwing everything into this and making it happen. It was also kind of like the coming out party for the ego. Like you listen back to College Dropout and there's a lot of ego and confidence, but it hasn't overwhelmed. It's still endearing because it's just, I'm going to make it happen and make it work. He's the underdog, right? And Late Registration, you have more hesitancy on those albums as Kanye kind of looks back on where he's coming from and compares it to where he's currently at. So even though there's still ego and confidence on there, it's undercut by the hesitation of what this new life and fame means to Kanye. A song like Roses is the perfect example of that, right? And then you go to Graduation, and it's such an explosion of ego, and the ego that's come to define every Kanye album afterwards. That feels kind of like the prestige picture that was defining for the filmmaker in some ways. Oscar nominee that was snubbed, I feel like has to be Yeezus in some respects, because it was nominated for album, right? Like rap album of the year, but the fact that it ended up losing to Macklemore is just like, are you kidding me? Like to Macklemore? Like the heist was cool, right? But like, way to live up to your name. What a heist that was. Jesus. I'm definitely not the first person to make that joke, but it's so fitting, like so fitting. And then cult classic, that's a good question. I feel like in some ways, all of them, like Graduation has shifted into a cult classic. I feel like that's the one that I see a lot of people have near the bottom. That and Late Registration feel like they get forgotten about a lot more than Kanye's other albums. You can make the case that even Yeezus was cult-like for a long time. I think from 2013 really into 2017, a lot of the Kanye like fan base was very critical of Yeezus to the point where it was like consensus for a lot of people, bottom, like worst album, like we can just start there. Yeezus is the worst. Let's make the rest of the list. And that slowly shifted. And I think in the last 3 years, it's kind of had a big flip to where a lot of fans really respect and love Yeezus at this point. So I think the cult classic label has shifted or gets applied to different albums at different times in Kanye's discography. Maybe Ye has that title at the moment just because people are kind of rediscovering it and starting to champion it again rather than it kind of being in that legacy status that Graduation and Late Registration have. Why do you think he took off Hurricane from Donda? Asked John Moskal. Why does Kanye do anything with these track lists? If the RN refers to rain, which refers to hurricane somehow, if that's like the logic that we're going with, awesome. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't know the Yandhi leaks well enough to speculate like on the lyrical content. I feel like even if I did know the lyrical content, like the back of my hand of all the Yandhi leaks, Kanye's so prone to change the lyrics of everything. Like look at Law of Attraction becoming used as gospel, right? So maybe he thought he could make it fit whatever concept he's going to have on Donda, and then it didn't. But it was also going to be called God's Country. And maybe when he made the switch to Donda, things started shifting a little bit in what made sense for the album track list. And something like Hurricane gets kicked off. Nathan Beaver, I saw your recent set of tweets about Ye's most recent tweets. I wanted to bring up the topic of questioning the Kardashians. Given their history in the media, is it not possible that they're controlling the narrative and are bad for Kanye and his mental health? I mean, it's very possible. I know that that's something that they are known for, is how they're able to, the relationship they have with the media and how they're able to frame things through that relationship. And the idea of damage control in this situation, I think, is something that people go to first and foremost. And the Kardashians are already so controversial. I think a lot of Kanye fans, if they didn't like Kim, they tolerated Kim. And if they didn't tolerate Kim, they've just been waiting for this. I don't think that's a large amount of Kanye fans, but definitely I think over the years I've seen a good amount that have kind of been like, I hate them. Where I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the Kardashians overall. I've always had a lot of respect for Kim and the hustle that they all have to go through. I know it's easy to get 15 minutes of fame, right? It's another to become what they become and have the success that they've had. That takes a lot of work, a lot of time and effort. And I think regardless of whether you like them or dislike them, at a certain point, we just have to respect what they've been able to achieve. With that said, regarding Kanye, I don't know, because I feel like everything we've seen publicly up to this point has been very gushing. Like him saying that he calls Chris mom, and like him making like fruit still lifes for Kim and always trying to express his love. And it just feels pretty shocking to me as somebody that's looking at Kanye so much that it feels off. Like this doesn't line up with the stuff that I've been seeing. So either like Kanye himself was also very good at like framing things in a way that hid what was really going on, or this is a sudden shift. And I don't know either way, right? Because it wouldn't be the first time that like celebrities are able to keep up appearances when things aren't as great behind the scenes. So I don't know really who to believe, given all the variables that are like at play here. Vidya said, "What happened with Wash Us in the Blood?" Yeah, what happened to Wash Us in the Blood? I mean, you look at songs like Only One, 4 or 5 Seconds, like All Day. There are a lot of songs in Kanye's like history that come out before the albums are supposed to come out, and that never then make the album. I think even before The Life of Pablo came out, like Real Friends was always going to be on it, but 30 Hours got kicked off the track list at one point. No More Parties in LA got kicked off the track list. So Facts wasn't on it. So it seemed like there were going to be songs that we heard ahead of The Life of Pablo that weren't even going to be on The Life of Pablo. So Wash Us in the Blood, I guess, is just a casualty of Kanye's changing perspective on what the album needs or should be. We'll see if it might make it back, though. You could have a chance that fights for Wash Us in the Blood. Do you believe that this Kanye breakdown was totally a publicity stunt? I don't think so. Like early on, the presidential stuff, I could start to see as like, all right, he's just upping the ante of what he does for publicity, but I don't think he would bring it to his family. Like that seems a bridge too far. Like when that's happening, it's a serious thing where like he's either trying to get out of the relationship, or there's such a problem in the relationship, it's the only way he can try to leverage communication with them, because the earlier reports were that Chris and Kim weren't talking to him at all. So he's taking to Twitter to try to get that conversation. Now the reports are that Kanye won't respond to Kim, which I don't know, like, to Nathan's tweet, like, or question, I don't know if that's like part of them trying to spin it now. Like Kim has been trying to go out. She has been trying. It's Kanye that's not. Again, we just don't know the information. But I don't think Kanye would involve his family in a publicity stunt like this, especially one that paints both him and Kim as so problematic when they have 4 kids that are going to be aware of this at some point. Zachariah What is your take on Kanye? I'm a focus on the music now tweets. Personally, I'm a huge fan of most of Kanye's artistic output, including his clothing and teased architectural structures. But does this tweet mean that the Gap Yeezy deal is done and he is no longer putting his focus into clothing? I wouldn't take it that far. I think it just meant for the nights. Like, I'm done tweeting about like all this stuff, my relationship, anything else, and just gonna focus on the music for the rest of the nights. Like, I'm out. So I wouldn't extrapolate it to like the larger goals of Kanye and just kind of look at it as what he was doing right then and there. Croaky, where do you think Hurricane went? Do you think he will scrap a lot of ideas off the project similar to how Ye Jesus King was? I hope this isn't rushed, and I hope Ye is okay. I too hope Ye is okay. It's good that it seems like he has, or that he has, not seems like he has, some friends there to be with him and just be sounding boards for whatever's going on. Like, whether it is something that's more of an episode or just his relationship being at this point that this conflict is happening. It's good that he has somebody there that he trusts and can bounce ideas off of or talk to. Hurricane, we kind of talked about, and Kanye is prone to scrap and change everything up until the last minute. I mean, the rumor that I heard earlier was that the album's done and they just don't know when they're going to release it. But like, College Dropout was done, and then Kanye went back and made edits. Like, not Watching the Throne, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy was done, and then Kanye went back and made edits. The Life of Pablo came out, and Kanye went and made edits. Jesus is King came out, and Kanye went and made edits. So it's always likely that he's going to scrap things. Always. Opinion on the Star Wars sequels. Mark Rodeo said. Rodeo? I think Last Jedi is the Ye of Star Wars movies. Force Awakens, I liked visually, and I liked the characters that were introduced, but I thought it repeated too much, and I think that's often a problem with reboots or sequels, is that they tend to just take the plot points or the beats from the original film and repeat them. Like, they can't go to a new direction with it. It's even something that I think Blade Runner 2049, as much as I liked it, is still guilty of in some capacity. Like, just, it has to go back and play off of or riff off of these earlier ideas, which is always strange to me. Like, the point of the sequel is to take the story forward. The Jurassic Park movies do this too. Bothers me. So Force Awakens, I didn't like how much they just repeated, and I think that's true for the whole trilogy. Like, I don't think that they were daring enough with the story that they were telling. Last Jedi, I have a lot of issues with the specifics. Like, Luke is your iconic character, and what do you do with Luke? Like, instead of having him in the aftermath of the original trilogy do great things, the amount, like, that's what bothers me too. Like, you think when Luke defeats the Emperor and is like going to return the Jedi to former glory or do something big, all it amounts to is him starting up this school and his students betraying him, and then he goes into hiding for 20 years. Like, how anticlimactic is that? It makes the payoff from the original trilogy so frustrating to me. So Last Jedi, seeing Luke, how they portrayed him, I didn't agree with, especially when you have him like milking the creature and just like viciously milking this creature with milk pouring down his mouth. He looks feral. Like, I don't want that for Luke. Like, that's not where I wanted the character to go. That's not what I wanted to see the character do or be. It was really strange. And then when Rey goes down into the cave on that island, all it does is show her like weird visions of who her parents might be. And like, it's built up as this like place of darkness, and there's something like evil lurking down there. And it's just a bad vision that she then walks away from. That was also very anticlimactic. So there were scenes that I enjoyed, like the fight scene was cool, but I also thought like Snoke getting taken out the way that he did was also very anticlimactic. It just felt all over the place to me. Sorry, I don't like Last Jedi that much at all. And The last movie, I thought it had some cool horror elements at times, especially in that opening scene, and was visually much better and had some cool moments, but still left a lot of things to be desired and had the same issues that the end of Game of Thrones had, where you're just like, what? Like, they're speed traveling to everything. They're just like, logistics go out the window. I think it could have been done better, the whole trilogy. Anthony Scott, what's a better Kanye song, Hey Mama or Saint Pablo? Um, excuse me. Hey Mama has an emotional component you can never match, but I think I would just enjoy putting on Saint Pablo more. So I'd go Saint Pablo. Mindless YouTuber, Hurricane not on Donda or renamed? Hopefully renamed. We had Consequence, I think that was real. Kind of hint that it was RN was the renamed Hurricane, but we'll see. Why are you the best? Thank you, Preston. Thank you. Purpura. I just try, Keyblade Zemnas. Do you do art or drawing? Is there a place where we can find out more about you? I don't know if there is a place where you can find out more about me. There should be. I guess I should have a website that has like resume and books that I've written. I'm a writer. I've been writing poetry since I was 14, so almost 20 years at this point. That's crazy. And then got into fiction in college, so I've been writing fiction for 13 years. I've written 2 novels, both available on kingshotpress.com or Amazon. If you look up Killer and Victim with the ampersand, or Killer Unconquered on Amazon. And they're weird books, like literary fiction. Like the first book has a 10,000 word sentence, and the second book is essentially 52 short stories that have narratives that connect between the short stories. So they're a little strange, but I think they're good. I've started drawing more because I've always wanted to draw, and I randomly will post those to Twitter, but there's not a collection of them because I'm still very bad at drawing. But I've still writing short stories, poems, novels. I'm at work on a new novel right now, and I've been submitting poems and short story places. If you know any literary agents, this guy's looking for a literary agent or a manager. Ryan Kadanis, does it worry you that Kanye tweeted that he's going to start focusing on music? Obviously, I'm excited for Donda, but it's more important for him to be in a better place with his mental health. I think music is always a cathartic thing for Kanye, and that he figures out a lot of what he's thinking and feeling by creating this content in these songs. So I would say that working on music is good for his mental health. At least I hope so. I guess there's an argument to be made that if the lead up to every album involves these kinds of public outbursts, whether it's regarding his family or like 2018, what we saw, maybe working on music starts to ramp him up a bit more. But I think from what we've seen overall in his career, music is always what he goes to for a comfort. So I think that might be true in this case as well. Schoolers Foolers. Do you think Ye is redoing Yandi and just changing the names of the songs? Don't think that. No. Do you think we'll get Slave Name? Though maybe over time he's going back through and using them, because there were several songs that made Jesus is King. So maybe a couple of the songs now are making Donda, and maybe some songs later will make whatever the next album is. Do you think we'll get Slave Name, All Dreams Are Real, or City in the Sky? I don't think we're going to get any. Sorry. T-Stamp, has your mind changed on highlights, specifically the second verse lyrics starting from the bridge line till the end of the verse? I only ask because that's my favorite part of the song, but you seemed very dismissive of it when analyzing it on your podcast. Also, will you ever cover the song Late from Late Registration? I think that's the part where like Kanye's ego always starts to like ramp up a little bit on highlights. And I think I like the bounce, but not the lyrical content as much. Though The Life of Pablo is my favorite Kanye album overall. So the criticisms I have, even for highlights, I was probably pretty dismissive of it at the time, which was 2016, 2017, but I still love the song and what's going on in that part of the verse. But I think I like the pieces around it more than I like that specific portion of the verse. And one day we do need to cover late. We need to cover late. We need to cover good night. It's just all the bonus songs, right? My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy bonus songs. We should do some of the Good Fridays tracks, right? But late is one that we should cover. Yeah. Yeezy Bound. Have you ever interacted with Kanye directly? What was it about? Have not interacted with Kanye directly. Well, so I was at the Jimmy Kimmel show in Los Angeles. Like, I happened to be going out to Los Angeles to see family out there, and it was just when Kanye got announced it was going to go on Kimmel. I managed to get tickets through the system where you have to like submit a picture of yourself, which is kind of stressful. Like, oh, I'll only get a ticket if I look all right. Ugh. But I ended up going and standing in line for a few hours. Shout out to Joseph Hernandez, the photographer. He was in line with me, and like 3 or 4 hours we're just standing there, like the first people in the line, and we finally get to go in and sit down. And I was on the far right side of the studio. So if the camera's looking at the crowd, I'm on the far left side. And at one point, Kanye said something, and I started applauding when nobody else was applauding. And that's when Kanye said something like, yeah, you can clap, or you can clap like in a few minutes. He just responded to me like starting to clap, which I've always been a little bit proud of. But haven't gotten to interact with him directly. Like, he's retweeted us a few times, or somebody running his account retweeted us a few times. I got to interview his cousin, the world famous Tony Williams, and I got to interview Mike Dean. So I've been around people that have been around Kanye. But when he was on the St. Pablo tour and the floating stage was coming right at me, he looked at me. Lincoln. What is your most valuable Kanye memorabilia merch? Do you think Kanye will retire soon? Oh, yeah. So most valuable Kanye memorabilia merch, I have a Yeezus tour poster that I don't think you can get anywhere. Like, the artist doesn't sell it anymore. I just got the frame to hang it. So I'm going to have it hanging back here on this wall. I'll put it up soon. But it's this awesome poster that was used for the Yeezus tour, I think in Australia of all things. And I was able to reach out to the guy, and he just had like a couple left and sent me one. Or maybe the I Love It Halloween costumes. I got those things, and man, do you think Kanye will retire soon? I don't think so. I think he's always going to be making music. The rate at which he releases albums, I thought was going to decrease, but like, we've gotten 3 albums since 2018 with a 4th on the way, so maybe he'll slow down at some point, but it seems like music's such a vital thing for him. Did Kanye's spiritual journey impact yours? Not really. Like, I'm not any closer to being a Christian than what I was. And when we were going through the Jesus is King season, I had to read the Bible a lot to understand a lot of the quotes and references. And that's the first time I've ever really like read anything from the Bible. And it was cool to see like some of the concepts from it and the famous passages and things, and be like, oh, that's where that comes from, or oh, that's where that comes from, because it's so influential. But while I appreciated viewing faith through Kanye's frame, I'm still no closer to having a kind of spiritual or religious faith myself. I mean, the closest thing is just me believing in the goodness of people, or just culture, as my puppy kind of barks. I guess we'll cut this video off here, and I'll do a part 2. I don't have any video editing skills. Yeah. So whenever I have to cut, I just have to start the whole thing again. So we'll come back and do a part 2, but stay wavy, keep it loopy.